They want to silence you because the propaganda would not be necessary if the enemy was invincible, and they're far from invincible. They're a joke.
Show, I scream, you scream. You know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest. Well, I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
It's time since Benito Mussolini.
Where politics have been compared to that of Mussolini.
The first far-right leader since Mussolini.
The first far-right leader since Benito Mussolini.
First far-right leader since Mussolini.
First far-right leader since Benito Mussolini.
On the retail calendar that can be enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Be enjoyed from a desk or a couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or maybe the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch. Enjoyed from the desk or even the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch. From a desk.
Who's this?
But
We are concerned about the trouble and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
Plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
okay, you can admit it if you've bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
Well, it's okay. You can admit it if you have bought an item or 2 or maybe 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it. You've bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
Inbox is out of control and you've given up sorting it out. A Baltimore company thinks it has a solution for you. Could this be the end of email overload?
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 Could this be the end of email overload? Could this be the end of email overload?
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.